Hey, I want to test the microphone. Can I talk to you for a second? Can you see online? I changed the cable. I want to make sure it was the cable. Test, 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 1, 2, test. Did you hear it? Okay, good. Thank you.
We're going to ask everyone to please gather behind the family. We'll ask that everyone please take a moment to turn your cell phones to their silent mode before we begin. Conducting our service today is Rabbi Stephen Schwartz.
Extra program. Very good. Just one. Just one. We'll see.
My very, very dear friends, there is a very long-standing Jewish teaching and custom that speaks of reciting 100 blessings each and every day. And we should pause just for a brief moment to reflect on the inner meaning of what it means to recite 100 blessings a day. That we should be continually, even amidst our times of loss and of sorrow and of mourning, that we should continually be in a place of praise and acknowledgement of all of our daily blessings. Of those 100 blessings, the tradition goes on to say that the most important of all, a timeless blessing, is that of gratitude. So how appropriate, therefore, that we should begin this service of sacred and of personal memory with a shared sense of profound gratitude for Claire's life and the meaning I know that she brought to each and every one of you. Amidst the deep sense of loss that is felt, I know, so personally amongst us, we pause at this hour to count our collective blessings and acknowledge all of the many gifts of Claire's life and her spirit that is now a part of each and every one of us. As we say, Baruch Atah Adonai, that we are forever grateful, O Eternal One, source of all of our blessings, for this moment to join together in sacred memory and to recall with abundant love the life and the spirit of Claire Meister Goldberg Schwartz. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may the Holy One of Blessing, from whom all things come and to whom all things return, on this day of mourning and loss, give us light and give us peace. And may all the words we speak and all the memories that we will share bring us comfort and bring us strength. In Jewish tradition, such moments of loss and sorrow have always been acknowledged by sharing selections from the book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms in the Bible. It is through these words that our ancestors found comfort and peace and healing in their lives. As is our custom and practice, we too will now turn to these same words with the hope and the prayer in each of our hearts that these sacred thoughts will now bring comfort to us as well. As I'd like to invite all of us to turn to the booklets that we have received, and on the inside cover, you'll find the very familiar words of Psalm 23, words that have been spoken throughout the generations in moments of loss and of sorrow. Mizmor LeDavid. These words are a psalm of David. I invite all of you, please, to join me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And I wish to continue in the spirit of the ancient psalmist and the ancient sage, bringing us a message of God's nearness to us in this moment of very personal memory. As I share the words of Psalm 121. Esa inai el heharim, Me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim ba'aretz. Al yitain lamot raglecha al yanum shomrecha. Hini lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. I lift up my eyes to the mountains, and what is the source of my help? My help comes from God, who is the maker of the heavens and of the earth. For God will not let your foot give way, your protector will not slumber. Behold, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. For God is your guardian, God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm, and God will now guard your neshama, your soul and your spirit, your going and your coming, now and forever. In his very personal loss, in his own bereavement and his sorrow, the Job of the Bible cried out these words: Adonai natan va'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach. That God has given and God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. As an ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of the shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and yes, there is strength in faith. This afternoon we say with Job, Adonai Natan, that God, you have given. You have given us a loved one who will not be forgotten. That all that was good and true and enduring in Claire's life, at this hour we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai, Lakach, God, you have taken away. And we now pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we might acknowledge your sovereignty and love. As we say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. I'd like to invite us once again to turn to the booklets you have received. And immediately across from the words of the 23rd Psalm, we find these very, very meaningful, reflective thoughts of Rabbi Alvin Fine, who speaks of the shared journey of life and of its meaning. As Alvin Fine writes, birth is a beginning and death is a destination. But life is a journey, a going and a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age. From innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing. From foolish to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength, or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love. From joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion. And grief to understanding, from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat to defeat. Until looking backward or ahead, we see that our victory lies not at some high place along the way, but having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage from birth to death to life everlasting. It is, my dear friends, in the spirit of love and in the spirit of honor that we now pause to remember the earthly journey, the essence, the neshama, the soul, and the spirit of our dear friend Claire Maester Goldberg Schwartz. I have personally been very honored and very blessed to share the life journey of the Kellman family over the years with Janice, with Lindsay, with Mitchell, and today to join each of you, Janice's extended family, for this moment of very personal and of sacred memory. I am grateful for the conversation we shared in preparation for this moment and its meaning, acknowledging the deep love that Claire shared for each and every one of you, the meaning she brought into each of your lives through quality moments shared together on the journey. And yes, also pausing to lovingly recall Claire as she was, a woman of strong thought, of conviction, and of opinion, who was not bashful in sharing what was on her mind. Yet, as many who are present here this afternoon can attest, underneath that strong will and exterior, and her desire to make sure that everything was clean, everything was in its place, was a woman whose generosity and acts of kindness had a profound impact on others and was embraced as a surrogate mother by those who were recipients of her care. For Claire was in so many ways an Ohedet Hayim. She was a lover of life, constantly moving and on the go, which made the last 2 years or so during COVID so very, very difficult and challenging, and yes, a fearful time for her. For she loved to be out and about. She was a lover of movies, theaters, and yes, certainly one of her favorite passions to go on a cruise. And after taking several world cruises with you, Lou, and returning just in time before the lockdown of March 2020, Claire made many lifelong friends on the cruise ships, and yes, even traveling on her own. Claire was certainly well read, with subscriptions for years to both the Sun-Times, Tribune, and many magazines as well. There was never such a thing as finishing a paper, tossing it out, or recycling it. God forbid. But rather that paper would follow her wherever she went, even onto the cruise ship with her. She loved going to school at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, where she received her initial introduction to education, which was to lead to her becoming a kindergarten teacher. But she then transitioned in her life to becoming a full-time mother, and ultimately to becoming a very successful insurance agent. Celebrating the Jewish holidays, with all of their customs and all of their traditions, was always an important part of Claire's life. Holiday dinners in the basement of their home was a time in which wonderful family memories were created. The basement was also filled with family photographs as a reminder of the special bonds that brought everyone together in that downstairs space from year to year. Claire's home over the years was a space that she never wanted to relinquish. It was literally her life. It was overflowing with all of the memories that were created there. And so, my friends, we are taught that words that are spoken here are spoken from the heart. They in turn enter each of our hearts. So in the spirit of that wonderful teaching, Janice, I'd like to invite you please to come forward and to share these words with us.
As a tribute to my mom, wrote many poems for special events over the course of her life. This is an ode to a young 89-year-old Clarabelle, as we like to call her. My mom was lucky enough to see her parents reach a ripe old age, and from that book, she was fortunate to take a page. Her mother, Rosie, would tell us it's a privilege to grow old, because not everyone gets there. And thankfully, she did, leaving a legacy they would share. Mom's sudden stroke took us all by surprise, and we really didn't think it would be her demise. Despite some painful challenges and strife, Mom lived a very full life. She enjoyed going to movies, whether at night or in the day, sometimes staying for 3 in a row. That was her way. When all was said and done, she loved to be busy and have some fun. She was quite social and easily conversed on world news, politics, and travel. She was well versed. And in everyone's life, she wanted to be immersed. She joined me for holidays at several of my friends' houses, first with Austin, then Lou, her cherished spouses. There was never a discussion on a topic you might choose, to which my mom didn't have intellectual knowledge and definitely strong views. If you couldn't remember when something occurred, Mom could be counted on to know the date. Her memory was absolutely first rate, including her labor pains, which reminded me of every year on my birth date. My mom had personality and a style of her own, which often included many shades of a pink tone. Most of her clothes in her closet were not black or white. They spanned the spectrum and were colorful and bright. If one of something was good, 10 was much better. She also had social and cleanliness rules you were expected to follow to the letter. But as we say, to many she was a loyal friend and fought for her life up to the very end. In closing, Lou, I want to thank you for all that you brought to my mom's life in these past 7 years. Companionship, love, and devotion. You understood and cared about her until her final days. And my deepest sincere appreciation to every one of you who has reached out to comfort us as we mourn my mom's passing. Let us celebrate the life and legacy that she leaves behind. Mom, we love you and miss you. Rest in peace.
Andrea, we'd love to invite you to share your words with us.
Those are my glasses. My sister said quite a lot, which I would say, but I'd like to say that despite my profession, I don't write things. I speak generally from my notes, so I hope you understand some of the things I say. Mom brought me into the world on May 12th, 1960 at 12:32 in the morning. To me, it was the night, not the morning. She created a night owl who stayed up hour upon hour until she found that the television was the place for me. And she would plop me down in front of the television, and that's where I would sit quietly and watch hour on end. I was a quiet kid, which many of you probably find hard to believe. And that was to Mom's chagrin. But when I found my voice, it was also to my mom's chagrin. Because, like my mom, I have my own opinions. I have my own stubbornness. And she dealt with a lot. With the child she taught to beat by her own drum, to see life the way I wanted to. And the other thing is, Rabbi Hart said she was a surrogate mother to several people. And I want to name who they were. She was a surrogate mother to my sister's best friend, Debbie Strom. And she was a surrogate mother to my best friend and first friend in life, Sherry Ludwig. She was always there for both of them. Besides being my mom, she was there when Debbie had a mom who had lupus and Sherry had migraines and her mom was working or not there. My mom would always be there for those dearest friends of ours. Yes, my mom shared with me since I was 5 the love of music, the love of travel, the love of theater and dancing. And to this day, I am a traveler like my mother. Not cruises. I hated them. She took me on one, and that was the end. I travel, I see theater. I've seen theater with my mother all my life. I was lucky enough to travel with her alone. And yes, the white garbage bag came with the newspapers on the plane to the hotel and back again to the house. I saw it first person, just as Lou and just as her husband, Boston, before her. She sent me to nursery school at a very early age and to nursery school camp with Sherry. And at that time, neither one of us loved it. We had to change in front of boys, naked, and hide behind towels. I didn't want to go. I would have fights with them because I didn't want to change in front of boys when I was 4 years old. But she sent me to be an independent person. She sent me to overnight camp, which I loved at 8 years old. A very young time to send a child to overnight camp. And to this day, had the camp not closed, I'd probably still be going to overnight camp. Would she be mortified that Janice and I showered in the lake for the entire year? My mother was the cleanliest human being in the world. And at the time I went to overnight camp, there was an eclipse. 300 people, children, were at that camp. And only my mother called the camp and said Andrea needed to stay inside. I was the only kid. I was so upset. Mom was so worried, and I'd look at the sun and I'd become blind. But I was so embarrassed. But the love my mother had for our Janice's and I, health, care, and everything was beyond belief. Yes, she loved her house. She and my dad built that house before I was born. And to this day, she wouldn't give it up. It was her place. And as my sister said, and Rabbi Hart, everything had to be where it was. And so, I never hung up a pair of clothing in my life because it wouldn't be good enough in the closet. So whether I wore my clothes for 1 minute, it went on the laundry chute. Same with making a bed. I didn't learn how to make a bed until I went to overnight camp. And even then, I failed at making a bed. Same with laundry. I never did an ounce of laundry in my life until I had to figure it out at college. Because, again, it was not Mom's way. It had to be my mom's way. And that is who my mom is, was, and will forever be. She was as clean and neat as can be. And as a child, I always said to her, Mom, when I have my own house, are you going to come and clean it for me? And she laughed at me. And it's funny. I have all the neatness, cleanliness beyond what my mother ever had. And all of my friends can attest to that. She sent me to every cultural thing humanly possible. Ballet, tap, drama class, tennis, ice skating. All I wanted to do, and piano. She had to pay me to go downstairs and practice piano. All I wanted to do was go to art school, and she finally let me go to art school. And even though in the beginning my art looked like something out of Psycho, she would frame it and put it up on some wall that would probably terrify anybody who walked in the house. Or frame a face that had a pig nose. And she was proud of that. And I can't say that I had a mom that wasn't proud of everything Janice and I did, even if we screwed up. She was a very colorful woman in not just what she wore, but in who she was. And she was stubborn as hell. And she raised a daughter who was as stubborn as her. But my mother was ahead of her time in creativity. And I had a bat mitzvah way before people had videos for their children. My mother had slides for my candle lighting with poems for each and every person in the family or friends who came up to light a candle. Way before the videos, way before the music, and everything else. And this was in 1973. And looking back, it just makes me smile how much creativity that my mother had and shared with Janice and I don't want to keep going on and on. I have a couple more things to say. If a friend made an enemy to Janice and I, they were an enemy to my mother. If someone hurt us, they hurt her, and that was the end of that person being liked. I will miss her terribly. And the one thing she did want me to do, she always knew my happy place was Paris. And through the troubles of my life, all my mom said was, go there, Andy. Move and live there. Go to your happy place. And I will go to my happy place. When the time is right. I have a few things Janice had given to me at a birthday party, a surprise birthday party to read. And I would like to read that and a few more things. I can't read this without my glasses, that's right. Okay. Enjoy. Recently I overheard a mother and a daughter in their last moments together in a regional airport. They announced her departure, and standing there in the security gate, they hugged and said, I love you. I wish you enough. She in turn said, Mom, our life together has been even more enough. Your love is all I ever needed. I wish you enough too, Mom. They kissed and left. She walked over toward the window where I was seated. Standing there, I could see she wanted and needed to cry. I tried not to intrude on this woman's privacy, but she welcomed me by asking, did you ever say goodbye to someone knowing it would be forever? Yes, I have, I replied. Forgive me for asking, but why is this a forever goodbye? I asked. I'm old, and she lives much too far away. I have challenges ahead, and the reality is the next trip back will be for my funeral. When you were saying goodbye, I heard you say, I wish you enough. I asked what that means, and she began to smile. That's a wish that is handed down from generation to generation. My parents used to say it to me. She paused for a moment, looking up as if trying to remember in detail, and she smiled even more. When we said I wish you enough, we were wanting the other person to have a life filled with just enough good things to sustain them. Then turning towards me, she shared the following as she were reciting it from memory. I wish you enough pain so that the smallest joys in life appear much bigger. I wish you enough gain to satisfy your wanting. I wish you enough lost to appreciate all that you possess. I wish you enough hellos so you get through the final goodbye. She then began to stop and walked away. My friends and loved ones, I wish you enough. Say, it takes a minute to find a special person, an hour to appreciate them, a day to love them, and then an entire life to forget them. I wish you enough sun to keep your attitude bright. I wish you enough rain to appreciate the sun more. I wish you enough happiness to keep your spirit alive. My mom's spirit will always be alive, and I hope all of us standing here will have a spirit that stays alive. There's two other things. Death is more universal than life. Everyone dies, but not everyone lives, and my mom lived to the absolute fullest. And but for COVID, she would have continued to do so. She would have had her activities. She would have had more trips. She would have shared her opinions and her arguments, whether we agreed with her politically or not. Mom, I will miss you. I never thought you would go this soon. And my dad said to me something that rings so true. A loss becomes a memory, and a memory becomes a treasure. May you rest in peace, Mom. And I want you to dance and sing with the angels, and fly with the stars, and be with Grandma and Poppy, Austin, your brother, and all your friends that preceded you. It's nearing an end of an era, but the group will be back soon.
Our hearts reach out with a profound sense of care and compassion to all the members of Claire's family and those who are blessed to be able to join us here, those who are with us via live stream, and all of those whose memories we also recall with much love. And Janice and Andrea, we thank you once again for your personal words. And we pause to acknowledge your loss and the multitude of thoughts and feelings and emotions that are bound up with this day and with this moment. May you be comforted by all of the words that have been spoken here, all of those who support you during this time of personal and sacred memory. And yes, to you, Lou, Claire's dearest husband, all of our thoughts and prayers are with you as well during this time of loss in your life. Although your years together with Claire were relatively brief, they were all filled with so many memorable moments, especially the joy that you found in the multiple cruises you took together over the years. May you always be comforted by the love that you were blessed to share with her. And to each of the grandchildren who had a very special place in Claire's life and in her heart, to Lindsay and to Mitchell and to JC, our thoughts are very much with each of you on this day of personal memory. And Mitchell, I know you had a very special, very special connection to your Nana. And knowing how much you especially appreciated the many straightforward and honest conversations that you had over the years. May each of you continue to find blessings in the many moments you were fortunate enough to share together in life. And our thoughts and prayers are with nieces Melissa and Michelle, to great nephew Jacob, cousin Marcy, all of those who were blessed over the years to share deep friendships with Claire. So friends, in the spirit of all of the words that have been spoken, we now say Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the good name and the memory of Claire Meister Goldberg Schwartz ever be remembered amongst all of us for much goodness and for blessing. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will always remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of this season of the year, we will always remember her. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of the spring, we will always remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will always remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will always remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will always remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will always remember her. When we have joys that we yearn to share, we will always remember her. So long as we live, O God, she too shall continue to live. For she is now a part of each and every one of us, as on this day with much love, we have now remembered her. And friends, we are now going to turn to the concluding words of our service. First turning to the words of the El Malei Rachamim, God of mercy, God of compassion, and then to be followed by the words of the Miller's Kaddish. I invite you one final time to turn to the booklets you have received, where you will find both of these prayers. And in honor of the words that we are about to speak, and certainly honoring Claire's life and spirit, I'd like to ask for those who are seated, if you'd be kind enough, please to rise. We say, El Malei Rachamim Shechem Ban Romim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina. In Krishim u'Tohorim to Zohar Harakia Masivim et Nishmat Chesi Chiti Bat Lezi Shal Haphala Ulamim Ba'al Harachamim Yistreha B'Sefer Kanafav Ba'ulamim B'Tzur B'Tzur Chayim et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachlata V'Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava V'Nomar Amen. El Malei Rachamim, compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to the soul and spirit of Claire Goldberg Schwartz, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence. Let her soul be bound up in a bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she now rest with shalom, in peace. And we say together, Amen. I invite all of us now to join together in the words of the Miller's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'omad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei v'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'bizman kariv v'meru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lolmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitfa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnasei, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shmei, V'Kudusha, Brichu, Le'ila, Min Kol Birchata, V'Shirata, Tush Bechata, V'Nechemata, Da'amiran Be'elma, V'Meru, Amen. V'Hesh Lama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'Chayim Aleinu V'Yalkol Yisrael, V'Meru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, V'Mromav, V'Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'Yalkol Yisrael, V'Meru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. May the one who creates peace and harmony and wholeness and well-being in the high heavens above. May a measure now of shalom, of peace and of comfort and of healing now be brought to all of those who remember with love, as we say together. Amen. Dear friends, we will now have the opportunity to join together in performing one of the most important and sacred obligations, mitzvahs, of Jewish life. Through this act of loving kindness, I invite each of you, if you're comfortable in doing so, to come forward and take 3 shovelfuls of earth and placing it upon Claire's casket. This is seen as the ultimate act of loving kindness, of our reaching out with much love in the spirit of sacred memory. and moments shared in life. So they'll have the opportunity here to come forward and once again to take the 3 shovelfuls of earth and placing it on the grave. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. For those who wish, and we have these magnificent roses representing the spirit and beauty of her life, of Claire's life. And if you would like to take one of those roses, I invite you to do that as well.
Those of you who will be participating, we will ask you please be very mindful of your footing near the grave. The ground is soft, wet, and a bit slippery. Also, I'd like to announce that Shiva will be observed privately for the family.
It's our fondest hope and prayer that we please your goodness and your kindness, and your full travel to God. May we be one together. And we can repeat your blessing of the name, Adonai, Dayan, blessed are you, the Lamb of God, the church.
At this time, we're going to invite the immediate family to come forward and place their measures of earth or flowers on the grave. Once the family has done so, anyone else who would like to is invited to come forward and place earth from either a pail of earth or from a flower from the spray. folks, once you've participated, we're gonna ask that you either proceed to your cars or step up back underneath the tent. The gentlemen from the cemetery are going to complete the burial. Folks, the service is here now concluded. If you'd like to remain and witness the final covering of the grave, you may do so. If you find this disturbing in any way, we